But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family and explorers of consciousness. I'm the Void.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. It's Wednesday night, July the 8th, and this is a very special, unique broadcast with the one and only Mary Dusina. This is not Cosmic Conditions. We're going to be talking about what is all this crazy energy about and what is the shift that everybody's been feeling. And it has to do, a lot to do, with that little inner child, the highest you and the smallest you that's inside of you that it's time to take care of. It's time to come into that sun card that you see on the tarot. And a lot of times when you pick up that sun card, you might see a little baby there, right? And this is what this is all about. This is what we're going to be talking about with Mary coming up. I do have to thank the sponsors just real quick at GetTheTea.com, AncientLifeOil.com, and Metaphorical Archaeology. Please, if you get anything from there, tell them we sent you. Click on the Fringe FM, as well as call Barbara Charlton, too, if you need a tapping session, an EFT session. And you can go to Metaphorical Archaeology on YouTube as well, but the numbers, not YouTube, sorry, Facebook, with the numbers 214-995-3754. All right, so what do we have to deal with now? What is all this stuff that's happening, all these retrogrades and all these eclipses and everything that's happening? Because I know some of you feel it. And I know we've been talking about it for quite some time now as it leads up and as we go through this. But really what it's about, and this is my belief, and I'm sure Mary's going to tune in here and talk to us about this as well, is that it is about your happiness, and it is about the happiness of the rest of us too, as well as when we come into our higher selves and we tap into these gifts. We cannot leave any demons unturned, especially those that are guarding the inner child, that little baby that's inside all of us. And that baby, the only person that's going to take care of that baby is you. And that's the scary part. We may depend on everybody else. We may look to others to take care of it. But in the long run, if you're not the one that does it, no one's going to. And this is what has plagued, in my opinion, a lot of humanity. Other than this is a big one. And then some other sacred stuff. But, yeah, welcome back to the show. Mary Dusina is with us. I mean, you need no introduction. MaryDusina.com. Mary Dusina, the mother of the show, my favorite psychic person on the planet. Thank you for coming back on.
Bless you, Joe. Humbled to be in the presence of our lovely void walkers, our tribe of light. It truly is rich, and it's a gift when you start to, as you say, tap into, link up with, embrace, besides just our family of origin, our tribe. And to respect the tribe, to honor the tribe, to be authentic, to walk with integrity, to know that whatever you desire or dream or hope inside the body or when you travel outside of the body, it's very important that you remind yourself the archetypes of how your mother and you, how your father and you, beyond this family of origin of karma and of the soul's duty, to align the gift of your will with the divine will, to align yourself to seek the presence of the divine. For me, and I don't ever cast or throw my personal choices of dynamic spirituality and the rocket ship fuel that has guided my life through tragedy, ecstasy, and even stagnation. Anytime as the child, as I've returned to the innocence of my pure self and my innocent self, even when I've been crumpled by life, when I bow and say, Almighty I am, close your eyes, breathe in. Almighty I am is the innocent child that chooses to enter the kingdom of all that is sacred in light and love. Allow me to forgive myself. Allow me, Great Spirit, Holy Spirit, Almighty I am, recalibrate me, move in to all of the systems of my beingness, my multiverses, the dynamics, literally into my DNA, my cellular structure. Enlighten me, imbue me, protect me, shield me with the Almighty I am, the army and the grace and the canopy of peace and prosperity as I honor this lifetime, this incarnation, and my ability to allow, to summon, and to receive, to walk with the light and to embrace the supernatural divinity. Almighty I am. So be it. Aho. Amen. It's important to align yourself, to find your fuel. That fuel, and we'll talk about how this ties in celestially, but your life fuel. You know, if your ego has an engine and your physical body, which is your matter, just like at the beginning of Lighting the Void, where he's talking about you're more than your physical presence. You're able to tap into it because you're so much more than just physical matter. It exists and it's real because you are more than physical matter. So the seed of our origin, there was a biological component that came together, whether it was in a test tube or a yin and yang came together, and a seed landed in a yin garden, and it grew. And it was in a water world. It was in a fluid world, and it was, the sounds were muffled, and you were nurtured, and there was an umbilical cord that fed you, whether you know your bio parents or not. You were, as a growing creature, you were taken care of by divine forces. You were fed by that biological temple. You were seeded by another biological temple. And here you came as the product of those two meant to be forces that got together and granted us life. So whether you're the parent, you're always the child. Even if you become a parent or a grandparent, you always started in the garden of life as the spirit spark. And we get so inundated and influenced by the generation we're in, that which society deems, you know, you're cool if you do this, and you're not cool if you do that, and you're a heretic if you do that. So we come in with this spark of innocence. We come in with this really powerful awareness, a wide-eyed aware, yet, and a word that a lot of people run from, we're vulnerable. We're such powerful spiritual sparks, but when we are brought forth from the biological unit of the mother, the earth mother, the mother unit that was a part of us getting here, when the umbilical cord is cut, we go through one of the most, if not the most, I feel, that's just my humble opinion, terrifying event of this entire life on earth. We cannot feed ourselves. We cannot get up and walk away. We cannot clean ourselves. We cannot clothe ourselves. And so in life, when you get frightened, in life when you feel like that you failed, in life when you feel like you were betrayed or abused or mistreated, or you were the one that was the abuser, you were the villain, then the victim, then the villain, to try to get the rage out, or the fear out, or the shame, or the blame. All of us came in with, even with the different circumstances of our birth, whether it was a C-section or a difficult birth or an easy birth, when the cord was cut, we became an earth creature. We became breathers. We became air breathers instead of fluid breathers. And so that shock and awe of when we first had to come into this atmosphere and we had to become breatharians, in a sense, in a physical unit, society started to tell us, act like this, you're this sex, do this, believe like we say, or we'll shun you from the tribe. And all of this stuff started, and we started as these wide-eyed, totally vulnerable, keyword, vulnerable creatures, new creatures to a new planet. Because whatever you believe about where you came from and the source of what ignited and animated you into this particular earth life right now, whatever you believe about that, and we can agree to disagree because we all get to find out after we exit. But in the meantime, let's just, for sake of agreement, something that we don't quite maybe have full understanding of, maybe even the comprehension to do so yet. I'm not saying some people don't. Something animated us, some kind of destiny, supreme, divine concert. Even if we were in agreement with it, with a soul contract, we're here. We're here this time. And whether you believe that you've been here thousands of times from other universes, from other star systems, I'm not here to debate that. I'm talking about this is the incarnation that matters. This vulnerable, innocent creature that started this vision quest, this life journey, this soul contract, started to mirror, started to pattern, started to copy, started to recoil or want to embrace those that were karmically intended, good, bad, or ugly, to be around us for this life trek. And if you don't think that we weren't unconsciously influenced, and if you don't think that we didn't have huge fight or flight embedded reactions. We didn't even know what emotions were, how to define them. We just knew that we felt everything on an incredible primal level. And so we became like video recorders, like voice recorders. We took it all in. We took it all in. And we were learning a new language. We came to a new planet country. We had to start interacting. We had to start, that heart, soul chakra had to start opening and like a shutter, like a camera shutter, like open, close, safe, not. And there were wonders visited upon us, and there were tragedies that befell us. And we had an automatic pilot of discernment, but we didn't have in our physical temple, in our vulnerability physically, the ability to control anything, not our bowels, not sustaining, feeding, keeping us warm or cool. We didn't have it. We were absolutely vulnerable to destiny and what was meant to be on this Earth Mother. So for me, as any of you that have ever heard Joe and I over the last couple of years, one of my divine awakenings does involve the First Nations people, and I'm very much in tune with the original peoples of this particular country that I incarnated into. And when I heard it said in my 20s after doing rebirthing work, and I've always had lots of friends that are psychologists and therapists and self-hypnosis, and you take it into Reiki and you take it into intuition and working on your shadow dance and all of that. But when I heard at a ceremonial fire, just one of the many medicine men that were working the fire of the four directions that came to the within place and said, we slip on skin, our spirits slip on skin to walk this world but for a while. Dance with your soul, listen to your heart, look with your heart, and trust your spirit. That did it for me. That woke me up. So for me, the way I kind of define that is it gave my child and my then adult self, and it let me summon my future self, my aged self, my future wisdom person. So we're time travelers. It's true. We're consciousness time travelers. I can sit here at whatever crossroads of biological measurement that I am, and I can reach back to my 5-year-old and remember I came from the stars, and then I had a knowing about that, didn't have a definition of it. I had a knowing. My inner child knew I wasn't from here. Kind of parked it like you park a car in a parking place. Went on with trying to discover what the heck is this place anyway, and who are these people? And some of them I really feel good with, and other ones it's like, oh, hell no. So we have to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I feel like the danger is the other thing you're taught in Native cultures is you can't give your power away. When you become too empathic, when you become too much of a people pleaser in order to get approval, when you become too much of the bully or the control freak, or you want to be desirable, you want to be looked at and admired, and we keep throwing our power outside ourselves, I'll feel validated. My vulnerability can be put to rest when they tell me that they want me and they tell me that they love me, and we can hold hands and walk forward together. That original mystic marriage is you. It's you and the alchemist, the magician, the magi, the power of that seemingly vulnerable physical temple baby child. That is your glowing, treasured soul star in alignment with the Almighty I Am and the divine declarations of your purpose of your life, the continuation, if you will, of your soul's journey and your karma and working that out, good, bad, or ugly. When you divinely align, then the child doesn't have to withdraw, and the child doesn't have to feel shame or blame anymore, because it is all-powerful and all-seeing, because it came in animated and ignited by the Almighty I Am, the divine source. However you choose to put labels or definitions on that, if you enjoy Zoroastrianism, if you enjoy Buddhism, if you enjoy Episcopalian Christianity or Southern Baptist, if you're walking with authentic, best version of you, best version of those core base beliefs, the 4 agreements, whatever it is that lights you up, whatever it is that uplifts you and raises up that soul crystal, then your child can be recalibrated and come towards you. And even though we all went through, to whatever degree on a 1 to 10 scale of intensity versus, well, I'm glad I dodged that bullet, whatever tragedy or ecstasy that we went through, pain is one of the most powerful teachers on earth.
Amen to that.
And on our earth walk. So it can be people that physically hurt us, that physically took advantage of us, that emotionally betrayed us, that emotionally beguiled and bewitched us, that mentally dumped their judgments and their prejudices and would not give us approval because ultimately they didn't give it to themselves, but that it's like generational curses, and as we look at what's going on right now, the way that you start to bring back that canopy of grace and to, as Joe said, turn and reach at whatever age you are right now, turn and reach to your inner child, whether you're a parent or not, and say, I got you. You went through that. You went through that in the earth walk kind of by yourself, and nobody knew. You were scared to tell somebody. You didn't know how to fit in. You didn't know why you were weird. You didn't know how to explain it. Get out of it. Get into it. But now you've got me. Come, walk with me forever, and let's undo those emotional cords and those psychic knots, because we came here with a very divine alignment, and I call you to me, and together let's call forth our wiser self, our future self, and let's incorporate our Trinity with all that is, with the all that is, the Almighty light, almighty grace, almighty empowerment and miracle and magics. Because what happens in alchemy, we're wanting to raise frequency, and we're wanting to It's not a game. It's about how might I get out of my own way? How might I fulfill my purpose? If we just get really self-centered about it, okay, whatever this life is about, I really do want to know. I really do want to see my purpose, and I really want to stop making mistakes by getting out of alignment with the best of. So the first step is to start in your breath work, just in your breath work, to pause and consider, why not? Why not? What's next? Why not? I'm ready to move forward. And the way we move forward is to cognizantly make a declaration. What happened to me happened. I'm going to get the best lessons out of that, and I'm going to choose right now in 2020 that I'm not carrying that burden with me into my future relationships, my future work.
You did not cause it. It only happened to you. It is not your fault. It just happened. That's it.
And when you can see that, when you can start to shift and make the deliberate choice that I don't need to be a control freak when I say that I am going to start to work on aligning myself with the reality that I don't have to have pain be my main teacher anymore, which means we have to listen when it's easier, when it's harmony, when it's electrified, when it's electromagnetic, because the reason most people succumb to incredibly painful lessons in life, in the life walk, is because pain will get your attention. You'll stop whatever you're doing when it's the heartache or the psychological fracture or the shock and awe of that never should have happened, I was the innocent one. I mean, it will absolutely try to get leaks into your aura. And like Joe said, the perpetrator energy will try to convince you, falsely, it's a false flag.
That it was you.
Yes, that's right. That because you didn't do this and because you did that and because just who you were and how you were created this tragedy, to come upon you. But I would like to ask you to, in your willpower and in your thought essence, to start to take on the role that you're not just in the theater of life as an actor or an actress. You're going to shift now by recalibrating that inner child and say, hey, guess what? We're the writer, we're the director, and we can change the script. We can change the script story from a horror film or a tragedy to an adventure to, a vision quest. We can be together. And we can cut the scenes and delete the scenes we don't like anymore because what happened happened. Don't carry it with you. Don't keep writing it into your now present future script. You're the one that has the pen. You can hit the delete button. You have that control. You have that control of how you're. But to get beyond it, we've got to be time travelers, and we all know by now. We all know by July 2020. What an epic, historic, bizarre, enlightening year 2020 is. It's like, ready or not, here I come. There's no hide and seek anymore. It's like, and when you think about some of the metaphors that you can use, I thought about Peter Pan. And any of you that ever watched any of the little Disney cartoons or the remakes of
the best lessons in those.
Absolutely. It's like to my parents' generations, it might have been Aesop's Fables or it might have been the Grimm fairy tales. Some of those were dark, but they still had great life lessons in them. And so in Peter Pan, there's a scene where Peter Pan is fascinated, like a Gemini. He's fascinating because he's listening to the Darling household. Notice the name. The household family name was Darling. And he's listening to Wendy do story time with the other siblings. So Peter Pan's kind of like fascinated by that because she's also telling a story about Peter Pan and the fact she's fascinated by Peter Pan. So there's a fascination energy signature that's going on. Well, Peter Pan happens to the dog, being of course telepathic, the Newfoundland, I think the dog's name's Nana if I remember well, barks. And so Peter Pan, his shadow gets captured. So Wendy, who's this little, she's a mutable sign, either Sagittarius or Virgo. So Wendy the girl, and then Tinkerbell, his familiar, Tinkerbell and Peter Pan have to go back to try to get his shadow. He got separated from his shadow, and you think about Jungian shadow work. You know, when we go back into the tragedies or the sadness or the shock of our childhood, it isn't just that. It isn't just dark, and it isn't just, you know, how our shadows seemed to win at the time when we were trying to understand the dark deeds and the darkness of the self and the man in the mirror and the little girl that wanted to run and hide in her secret garden. You know, it's like shadows were visited upon us. But when we can look at the shadow as a teacher, like yin-yang, electrical or magnetic, so Peter Pan has to go back. He has to risk going back, and he's got Tinkerbell looking for where Wendy, darling, locked up his shadow. Now, once they find the shadow, Wendy's more than happy to put the shadow back on Peter Pan. And if you look at that one little 4-minute clip on YouTube and bring that up to your current memory and look at it as an archetypal metaphor, when she's beginning to sew the shadow onto Peter Pan, tonight's the moon in Pisces. Pisces rules the feet. The feet are the aspect of understanding. When she's putting the shadow and beginning to sew the shadow back onto Peter Pan, he can't sit still long because he's kind of ADD. He gets up and he starts dancing around, and she said, "Why were you spying on me? Why were you?" He said, "Well, because I liked the stories that you were telling." She goes, "Oh." And she goes, "Well, the stories were about you." And he goes, "I know. That's why I liked them." And he said, "And then I took them back, and I would tell the stories to the lost boys." And then she says, "Well, I'm glad that you heard the story because tomorrow I have to grow up." And that 4-minute clip stops with Peter Pan in absolute shock going, "Grow up?" Because Peter Pan is that archetype, that metaphor of like, I want to stay in my youth. I like it here. I like the wonder of it. Everything's new. Everything's fascinating. He didn't want to have to get into the mature or the parent role. He didn't want to have to do that. So Peter Pan's like the Gemini aspect in our chart. Tinkerbell's like the familiar. You know, it's like my pet dog or my pet cat. You know, she's like his medicine totem. And so where we're at right now with Venus just turning direct in Gemini and Mercury, the mind and how we communicate and how we can time travel. That's right. Hypnosis, meditation, past life, future life, regression, out of body, astral type of experiences. Mercury's retrograde in the sign of the mother, and the mother and the child reunion, the sign that's ruled by the moon, Cancer the crab. So ghosts are appearing, the ghost of our past, the ghost of maybe fractured relationships or things that went awry, of like, how the hell did I not see that coming? You know, and why would that person do that? So we're both fascinated, but we tend to try to look at, where was my judgment? Where was my discernment? That
was my biggest one. Why did they do that to me?
Right. Well, here's one of the things that one of the actually a really great therapist, psychologist, coworker of mine when we did television in Florida, you know, said one time in one of our forecast shows, Jeannie said, you know, just because you make a willfully directed decision that you're going to be a person of integrity and you're going to tell the truth and you're going to walk your truth, you have to understand that part of the shadow of that is that you might unconsciously be expecting other people, because you're doing it, then, you know, now we call it the law of attraction type of thing. That guarantees that every guy and every woman that you meet and every business person, you're showing up, you're having integrity, you're a team player, you're going to tell the truth in that relationship. And if they ask whether it's a little hard for them to bear the truth or not, you're still going to be real and authentic and tell the truth. Is no guarantee, let me say that again, is no guarantee, and you can't put a string around it, that the other party is going to choose with their will to tell you the truth. And I think that when we get into mysticism and metaphysics and whatever cultural, spiritual bylaws and rules we want to work with, we start, you know, part of the shadow of that is judgment. We start to want to walk our faith and walk by faith, not by sight. And we want to start doing all of these things and like incorporate goodness and mercy to follow us all the days of our life, the 23rd Psalm, you know, and yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Like Joe was saying, we have to do that relationship with ourself, our inside universe and our outside universe. But it starts with your history. It starts with her story and his story, the history. And so if If we just keep running from cleaning up that, it's like just like we wash dirty clothes or we take a shower, and we're getting rid of those discordant frequencies and vibrations, or just dirt from the garden, or sweat from the day. We're cleansing ourselves with the element of water. Our breathing and the air circulating around us is a part of feeling the electricity of our aura, the air that we wear, the air that we carry about us. How did the wonderful things that happened in our childhood, even if it was just you finding wonderful discoveries and explorations and adventures in your childhood that maybe you didn't share with your parents, or you didn't have your biological parents, or you were given up, or you were in a foster home, or you were an only child, or you were a spoiled child. Whatever the external circumstances that were orbiting around you, you lived it and you were influenced by it. So you now, as the director, as the writer, as the videographer, as you can time travel and go back and say, I'm blah, blah, blah at the crossroads of my physical incarnation right now. I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 60s. I'm going to, with these planetary retrogrades is like walk back in memory lane. Go back to the place called Nostalgiaville. Look at the ghosts that are showing up in your dreams. Look at the spirit helpers. Look at the symbols that are showing up in your dreams. Someone calls you from the past, and maybe you don't want to answer the text or the call because it's not someone that you want to hear from, because they're not safe. They don't play fair. They didn't represent positivity in your life. So just because that phantom is showing up to try to haunt you again doesn't mean you have to answer the call. But the call I'm talking about, you answering and exploring, like the great Robin Hood or the great pirate or the great, spiritual investigator of the paranormal, take your supernatural acumen and skills and walk back as a wiser, better version of yourself and say, I'm gonna incorporate my paranormal, supernatural, sacred skill sets, and I'm gonna go reframe that. I'm going to let my hard drive be programmed and upgraded, and I now have the power and the authority, especially aligned with the divine. I'm going to go get rid of malware, and I'm going to go empty the recycle bin, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete some of those programs that absolutely serve no purpose but to pester me or haunt me or taunt me and open up that wound of where I felt like I wasn't good enough. Based on what? Based on something outside of yourself, either doing that to you, preaching that to you, condemning you, or not being fair with you. When we become adults, if we choose to pattern that behavior, and now I'm the one that's the villain, now I'm the one victimizing someone else in being abusive or inappropriate in any way, that's someone that has become imprisoned by the very things that were visited onto them. And how many times have you heard, I know I've heard it lots of times in myself, that's the way my daddy did it, and that's the way my mama did it, and that's the way I'm going to do it. That's good enough for me. And it's not even examined. It's not even up for discussion. It's just like, I'm going to keep that generational mandate, and even if it's a curse, and I'm going to do the same thing. And it's like nobody tends to bother to go back. It's like they've lost the ability to believe that they deserve compassion, that they can do some healing and forgiveness work. And when I talk about healing your inner child, it absolutely, what Joe and I talk and teach about tonight does not depend on you getting their approval or their validation. This is you to you. And as we say in Italian, capisce? This is about you to you. You hold the keys. You can unlock the lock. You're not waiting on anybody else to unlock your lock anymore. You came in for this ride. You came in the multiverse of my higher self, my beautiful innocent soul spark, and the part of me that's taken this trip and doing this vision quest and aware of the fact that there's pieces of a puzzle that if I'll get out of my own way and I'll look back at my history and see that all of it helped shape who I am today and get myself unstuck from the people that chose to be jealous of me or mean to me or harmful to me. They don't get to have my power anymore. I'm taking it back.
Or the people that didn't even notice you.
Right.
They didn't even notice you were there. They didn't even notice your gifts. By all means, they used them for their own purposes, but they never noticed you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what do we do? The shadow side. Let me give you a clue. Wherever the Jungian shadow work, it's like your ego is often a protector. It can go to extremes, but the ego is the engine that's wanting to figure it all out. The shadow aspect of the ego, like if somebody's very judgmental in their religiosity, they're very judgmental in their chosen walk of faith, then really what they're afraid of is being judged themselves. So they want to hurry up and judge somebody else because they know all too acutely how it feels to be judged. Like if they didn't go by somebody else telling them, you have to believe this or you're going to die and go to hell, or you have to do it this way, do it my way. I don't care what they say, do it my way, or I'll never touch you, give you my approval, and I'll kick you to the curb. So we start to give our power away in that sense. But if you're choosing by your God-gifted free will to be kind and compassionate, and when you're tired and you're cranky and you're giving too much of your energy away and people are demanding too much of you and you're not speaking up, then what we start to get a little pissy about or exhausted about or judgmental about is the very thing that we fear we would be judged by. So you can start to integrate the shadow part of yourself and give it fun jobs to do. If somebody's real prim and proper, then they're going to tend to judge slovenly, sloppy, people that don't shower, people that don't have good hygiene, people that just let their hair down and say, come on, walk on the wild side. That's really hard for someone that their ego is wrapped up in being just prim and proper and accepted by societal or a certain beliefs, mandates, and rules. So it's hard for them to do that. But in their wild shadow self, they kind of want to. And they might. That's where people laugh and say, did you see the deacon at the liquor store? Did you see the preacher over? It happens. So we've all seen it, heard it, and we've known about different religions and different belief systems being abusive to kids, and the trafficking and the sexual inappropriateness and foster homes and the cracks in the system and all of that. And even though we became parents, there's times where we've also done what I call the S&B, the shame-blame game, on the fact that we got distracted, that we were licking our wounds, and we didn't notice our child. We didn't like really get on an in-sync wavelength with our children, our stepchildren, or our children. And although we
just keeps cycling.
And so that's where we get the generational curses. And so I feel like if we'll all start to not just keep blaming external circumstances and make a pact as the Lighting the Void and the Fringe FM Void Walkers, that if we can all clean up, kind of have a soul work, homework type of thing, and your stories are welcome. And I told Joe before we got on air, please, 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 if and when you want to call in and it's tender and it's raw and it's vulnerable and it's going to be cathartic and transformative, and you're going to have a metamorphosis, if you can just cite an example of something that was really fracturing or broke you for a while, please use a fake name. Just make up a name, because the story and the medicine and the healing is far more the treasure jewel than us knowing who you are or where you live. That's not important for this show at all. Make something up so that you have that mantle of anonymity and protection that you can kind of let your hair down if you want to call in and just state, I went through this in my life and this is how it pained me, and if you have a question about what's the first step I can do to overcome that Joe and I can start to do exercises to help you with. I've got some that in an overarching way that I've done that worked for me and that I'll suggest to all of you, and we'll even talk about it with the celestial parade that's going on why we're actually being enhanced by the celestial signatures right now, the eclipses, and I'm going to briefly define why, and what archetypes psychologically and celestially and spiritually are good for us to do this medicine. And to me, in the last 38 years, the last time that and you might be younger than that, but the last time that Jupiter and Pluto aligned, and it was in Libra, was in the fall of 1982 into the spring of 1983. So if you're younger than that, then you might want to talk to your parents, or you might want to talk to older siblings or cousins or someone in your life of like, hey, what was the big deal? Did we have anything big go on in the family dynamic at the end of 82, like, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas of 82 into Easter or Passover of 83? So if you're just 19 or 20, then, you haven't been here for 38 years. But if you think back, and you're old enough to think back to what the family dynamic was, or if you were divorced, or you were entering into something, or changed jobs, or someone left you, or you entered into a new intimacy contract, that's the last time that we had Jupiter, which expands, and Pluto that said, you have to give that up. This is a raw, real time that we can do incredible transformative work, but we got to be gentle on ourselves. We got to be authentic. We got to be real, but we also can we can create the soft moments for ourselves that were once very harsh lightning bolts that just split us wide open. So you might get angry, you might need to have a good cry, but that's okay. That's okay, because this is that time. We're in a new renaissance right now, and we're literally downloading light codes. We're literally in a higher frequency dimension right now as time travelers, as souls of light, that we literally, like the snake, we're growing and we're expanding, and we need to shed some skins. The bird will molt its feathers, just drop its feathers at a certain point in the year, and the snake has to shed its skin. But when it's in the process of shedding that skin, most people don't know this. The snake is blind for a while. That dry skin is covering up its eyes. So whether it's a viper or non-poisonous, it has to rely on those, here we go again, instinctual, magnetic, intuitive, vulnerable vibrations of like, oh, holy crap, I can't see the hawk, I can't see the human, I can't see the other snake that could eat me. I've got to just get through this. And this show is about the only way to get through it is by going into it. And that's the magic. That's the key that we're going to unlock with you tonight. Hopefully that we can really help you move quickly, but more importantly, profoundly into a soul star liberation, because this is that time. This is that time in 2020.
You know what I did is I was trying to find a baby picture of myself. Is what
Perfect.
I was trying to find, but I couldn't find one. But I had a baby picture of another baby, and this picture was taken when this baby was a gorgeous baby, by the way, but was staring at its mother, sucking his thumb. Mm-hmm. And you could see the adoration in his eyes, but you could also see the happiness and the curiosity and every heavenly and divine thing about it. And I used that picture as a reference to try to get back to myself, Absolutely. Well, if you're drawn to it, if there's an allure and a fascination of you as an adult man to, I was going to try to find a picture of a baby, of me as a baby. I know it's around, but maybe I didn't find it today. But, oh, look, I'm relating to this. Yeah. Then that's the visual, that's the oracle, that's your holy guardian angel's way of saying, we want you to see you here. We want you to see this, because the fact that you had a gorgeous baby that was, this baby's loved too, like big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the baby was able not only to cast that telepathic adoration vibration going back and forth with the mother temple, but also had learned how to suck its thumb. So it's like, that's very symbolic of, I can also nurture myself. There she is, but I can also nurture myself, because her temple garden gave me life. And one of the first steps with your inner child, and for a lot of people I've talked to over the years, this is a big one, especially if they didn't have an easy journey, Joe, is in your meditation, just whether you knew your bio parents or not, in the meditation, just say, thank you for my life. Thank you for my life and my opportunity to live it. Another thing you can do when you pause is to, There's a ceremony that I led some people through by a fire to where I said, this is anonymous. You're going to write this. Nobody's going to read this but you. Whether you've got kids at this ceremonial fire or you're here with your parent or whatever, I want you to write on one side of the paper a letter to your mother. Now, she may never know this. She may never read it or see it. I suggest that. This is you and what you want to say and what you want to release. And, of course, we were going to burn it in the ceremonial fire with the sage and the frankincense and the copal and the sweetgrass. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of the letter, you're going to write the letter to your father. Your parents may still be living. Your parents may have transitioned. You may have never known these bio parents. I'm talking about you as a child. Write the letter, the good, bad, and ugly, to the archetype of the mother and the archetype of the father. So it's not attached or dependent on whether you knew them or not. Sometimes that can get a little bit in the way. But nobody's going to read this but you, and it's you writing down what was difficult, what was hurtful maybe, or what was wonderful, if everything was wonderful. And, I got to tell you something. A lot of the clients that I've had that were lucky enough to have a really easy karmic lifetime of really great parents and there was no real bizarre things that went on, what becomes very hurtful and difficult for them is when those parents get sick or those parents die because they didn't have any painful teachings, lessons, tragedies with those parents like most of us did. And so for them, the loss is huge. It's catastrophic. It's catastrophic because they've not had any real division.
Yeah.
With them.
Just a figure for everybody, too. Around 800,000 people die to suicide every year. Every 40 seconds, somebody is in so much pain, they don't want to live anymore. And I don't know how many of those people it's emotional or whatever, but I can tell you now that we are not going to transition into this new whatever it is coming if we cannot identify the inner child in us and everyone else too.
But because it was the start of our journey. Whether people say, I don't believe in reincarnation, this is the only life I believe in. Okay, but we all still had, as biological units, we all still had the same beginning. We all came from something, right. Some kind of combo of energetic signatures.
You remember when I used to
right
tell
now
you
we're sharing.
I had panic attacks, like bad ones, right? Bad ones. Mm-hmm. And I had those because I wasn't allowing myself to live who I really was. I had so many people in my mind, these voices, I had to figure out where they came from, telling me who I am and what I need to do. And I wanted to make them all happy. But deep in my subconscious, the next thing you know, you just start having a panic attack. You don't know why it's happening. You can't stop it. But it's the inner child in you. And anxiety comes from depression, and depression comes from unhappiness, and it all spawns from you not taking care of that child and not allowing yourself to at least be that child.
Sit with it, sit with it. And, like in my 20s, when I faced, some people, and to that point, Joe, a lot of times people, they become shut down or they become addicted, which is still being shut down, or they become avoidant. They've had too much conflict, and the psychological term is they disassociated, and they have like a post-traumatic stress from it, and they don't want to go back, and they feel like if they go back, it's going to pick the scab and open up all the pain again, but not if you're in control in a sense of, I'm only going back to heal it. I'm only going back. Right. I don't have to feel everything that was so painful. I'm going to go back with the intention and aligning my will with the original sparks of grace and holy fire and divine direction. Now I'm deliberately saying, hey, grace and Holy Ghost and Great Spirit and Great Mystery, come with me. I'm aware of you now. Come with me. I choose to willingly, with my own God-gifted free will, I want to align Almighty I Am. Walk with me consciously back. Let's walk back to, I'm not alone. I'm not just vulnerable. I'm not just hurting. I wasn't an addict then. Now, some babies are born addicted, and they have nurses and doctors that help them, get off the addiction that maybe their mother or their father had. Maybe they just come into an addicted environment and that became their normal. That became what was normal for them. But we're going to walk back with fresh eyes. We're going to get a new view on some old scenes. And by looking at with eyes that we have now, even though we made progress, fell back, got off addiction, went back to it again, because if you'll look at what triggers you, it's usually when we're starting to have that haunting phantom to say, I could own your butt in a heartbeat. I can reopen that rape. I can reopen that loss. I can reopen that death. I'm the haunt in your inner conscious. I'm in you. I can prison you whenever I want to. So when we turn and face that and say, no, not anymore. Now I'm awake and aware and alive of those original energetic frequencies, those original energetic empowerments that animated this life in the first place. And I choose it, I align with it, and we're walking together. Now, I don't ever walk alone. I don't ever walk alone. I have such a knowing about that. I knew it when I was a child. I knew that there were things I didn't like, what am I doing here? And what is this all about? I had all those questions, but I knew that the star beings watched over me. I knew that the star beings were my true tribe. I didn't know anything about astrology, could have cared less about any of that stuff then. It was just like I read the stars' eyes. I knew that those stars' eyes were safe. I knew that I'd been there. I knew that they watched over me, and it was like a kid's teddy bear. Or until I had the puppy, the stars were like always looking over me. So I knew there was always light in the darkness. Couldn't say those words then, but I knew. So anything that can help holistically uplift you and free you and liberate you, it always starts with the soul-spirit connection. It always doesn't start in the mind, doesn't start in the body. Holistic means I'm going to my soul star, I'm going to the original combination, recipe, frequencies that whirlwinded me into this body. And whether I agree with it or not, or it's my first or my 5,000th time, I'm interested in the great mystery. I'm not afraid of mystery. I'm not going to fear the future anymore. Yeah, I might get hurt again. I might get vulnerable again, but you know what? Here's the reality medicine in my medicine bag. I already survived the scariest, freakiest event of this whole incarnation. Even I've been in car accidents or broke bones or faced cancer or had the crisis medical report. I don't have to have that to create an epiphany. I went through the bizarreness of being born into this world.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of really physically demanding situations with that. Like some of the mothers were cut open with the C-section and the baby jerked out and umbilical cords were cut. Some had, easy water births and it was all like airy-fairy, hippy-dippy. But some of them were just like, the mother wailed and screamed and was freaked out because, she had a baby after a rape or abuse or didn't want to have a baby and was blaming herself that she got pregnant and had the baby and then further punished herself because she abandoned it, gave it up, or got addicted to drugs herself. Yeah, life 101. But we can get free of those repetitive curses and those psychic knots. We can get free of it by saying, that was then. I didn't know that I could be a director to that. I thought I was just under the power of it, under the spell of it, but I am not Rapunzel locked up in the castle anymore just because somebody said I would die if I got outside the castle. I don't believe that anymore, and I'm going out. I'm going out. I trust it. I trust, I walk by faith, not just by sight. So it has a lot to do with you first rekindling whatever you define the divine as, get in touch with that, and whatever you're comfortable with that, the invisible, mysterious, sacred, scary, because it can be so powerful, get in touch with that and say, I choose to be aligned with the highest aspects of light and love and my soul. I ask for my soul to be aligned with the almighty divine frequencies, the supernatural sacred, if that's the way you want to, I align with the sacred supernatural. So you're making a choice to invite it. You got to ask so you can receive it. And so starting to do then physical exercises of like back to that ceremonial fire, people wrote down their biggest fears, I had him write. I said, write down your biggest needs on the side of the paper with your mother. A letter to your mother. Part of that letter is also what maybe your hopes or desires or what you got or what you didn't get out of mothering for the women that had become mothers. You know, it's and then the earth mother, and then the goddess, and then when you did the father, it was like Almighty I am, Father, Father Sky, Holy Ghost, God, that whole patriarchal type of archetype, on the father side of it, it's like, thank you for taking care of me in the times where I was blinded, when I absolutely didn't know what I was going to do. I was crumpled down, just crying and exhausted or so angry. I just wanted to, like you said, Joe, I didn't see any way out, and I just decided that I don't like this life at all, and I'm leaving. Whatever the odds are, whatever the stakes are, I don't like it here anymore. I'm going to go. Whether drugs were involved or alcohol was involved or whatever, there was a neural pathway that just gave up, So I'm not going to condemn those people that did that. In my prayers and in my meditations, I always feel like I'm covering all the bases when I say, Almighty grace, I pray for the innocent. Bless and protect all that are the innocents. And whether it's a creature, whether it's an animal, whether it's, a star being, whether it's off planet, whatever it is, I pray and I align with all that is innocent and all that is of loving vibration and all that is of light. And what you can start to do is like a meditative shower of light. So when those haunts of something bad or scary or hurtful that made you angry when you were a child, you can see coming into the top chakra, to the top part of your head there, you can start to see these, it's almost like you've seen those instead of water fountains that, spew the pretty water up there, there used to be like these type of chandeliers that had oil on them or something. It was like the actual light was thicker. It had more viscosity to it, so you can start to see it, the cylinder of these healing droplets of light, or if you want it to be wind or water or divine supernatural light coming on you like transformational fire.
I got to take this break here. So yeah, we're only going to take like one break, and then we'll be right back. We'll talk about some specific stuff too, and where are you needing to see this energy in your life and transform it. We'll be right back with Mary Dusina. It's a special broadcast tonight, Healing the Inner Child. Stay with us.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com, and like me, you'll be glad you did.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by All New Head and Navel, the only shampoo that battles both unsightly dandruff and excess buildup of belly button lint.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races twitches and your palms get sweaty, you don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
All right, man, this is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chinas. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a couple of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to light in the void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you're interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
Y'all listen to the lyrics to the song.
All right. Yeah, I used to think, Mary, that song was totally about like drug use, like 100% about drug use. But I'm not so sure now. Like the more I listen to the lyrics, it's more, I don't know. What do you think it's about?
What I know it's about from listening to it, because I love Pink Floyd and all the interviews they did about that song, is that whatever external outlet one uses to not think about it, not feel it, not look at it, to become comfortably numb, it's just like, I'm not dealing with it. I'm shutting down. I've got to find something that in my numbness makes me comfortable. So when we hit that point with alcohol, when we hit that point with whatever drug, and I'm talking prescription or entertainment, recreational, when we stay in, how many people do you know, all of you out there, maybe some of your parents, maybe yourself, that they've become comfortably numb, as in shut down emotionally, just going through the motions, but they're not happy in the relationship or the marriage, or they're not happy. They've not cleared something up with one of their family tribal dynamic, main players in the family. They don't want to have to confront them. There's a bully in the family, or there's someone that they need their affection, but they've become almost like.
I can tell you something that I witnessed as a child growing up, and I think it was my sole mission to witness, was the female figures in my life, no matter who they were, but especially my mother, going from one bad situation to the next. And at the whole time doing that, numbing herself down day after day after day. And my mother was she had a lot of traits that I did. She was a passionate person and had a lot to offer, super intelligent. Nobody messed with her. Like, you don't mess with Debbie, she'll whoop your ass, that kind of thing, Passionate. Good. So I know where I got my passion from. And my dad would tell me these stories about her. But yet, when I was a child, she wasn't around. And when I did see her, I never could. I remember feeling angry, like, why are you in this situation? Why don't you just leave? Why are you letting him hit you? Why do you keep drinking? Don't you want me around? What's wrong with you? And see, this is the vulnerable part of me that I don't think most people want to talk about, right? They're like, did I do this?
But they think it.
Are you ashamed of me?
But they think it, Joe. It haunts them.
Right.
It haunts them.
And so as I got older, I witnessed my own father doing this to women, like he wasn't physically abusive or anything, but he was a control freak. And I saw this Stockholm syndrome happen, and I continue to see it. For some reason, my life keeps pulling this in so I can view it. And I have no idea why, but all I know is it's, well, yeah, I kind of do now, but it's like, it is I'm the opposite of that. I've become the total opposite of that. And that's not necessarily healthy. My ego's taken over to the point to where if I feel any love in my life, I would get to the point to where, well, it's definitely going to betray me and it's definitely going to abandon me. And then whatever that love is going to go to a place where it gets treated like hell. And there's nothing that makes you feel less of a person, especially as a child, than seeing a mother figure or a female or whatever it is leave your life to go to another situation that sucks for them. They chose that over you, right? And that's the demon in your head going, they chose that over you.
And here's what goes in on the unconscious level in the vulnerability of that innocent child. I came from you. I am you. And I'm like the gift of life in your life. And I'm like the light. I'm like the beacon. I'm the innocent lamb. I'm the kitten. I'm the puppy. I'm the little bird that fell out of the nest. Don't you want to pick me back up and put me in the nest and enjoy watching me and helping me sing and, getting the worm for me and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, look, I pecked out of the egg, I made it. I made it. So when you make it, you make it, and you're breathing, and okay, there's some clothes on me now, and I'm being, my diaper's being changed and all that. I still can't walk yet, but then we get that sheer will and determination of like, I'm going to do what those people are doing. I'm not going to crawl around on all fours. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk. But we're doing that. We're forming beliefs, and we're summoning our will, and we're forming patterns. We're forming patterns. So at that vulnerable age, it's not that we have a lot of thought structure. We have this sheer momentum. We have this Mars energy. We have this but that's how they got over there.
Those thought patterns, though, as you get older, and they're still plagued in your mind, that blame, that thing that's going on, you vibrate that thing into your life even more. It just keeps showing it to you over and over again until you can finally come to the realization that, like, wait a minute, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not causing this to happen in a way where it's my fault, but I am vibrating it so I can keep looking at it to let me know that
it was familiar.
I've abandoned myself.
Your story. Yeah. See, the reason we keep unconsciously, like almost giving off psychic pheromones, the reason we keep creating it is because it got embedded day after day after day after day, after emotion, after tear, after laughter, after whatever. It was the vulnerability we had, that became our security blanket. So even if it was skewed or hurtful, it became our habitual normal. So until we as empaths, until we as eyes wide open can say, that's not going to be my normal anymore. I wasn't able to really look at it, that was their story, and I got sucked into their story, and that's all they could give, and that's all they could do. And I didn't even know their story of when they were a child or how they might have been hurt or abused or whatever. You don't know that as a little vulnerable new creature here. You don't know that. But once those components start to come together, it's a recipe, and it's an alchemy for you to be able to say, I did not know your story, and the very thing that I felt you did to me, Dad, Mom, that you abandoned or blamed or shamed or were ashamed of me or didn't like me unless I ended up reversing that, and now I'm blaming you, and I'm ashamed of how you didn't want me and all that kind of stuff. And the little kid in us is just like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. You ever seen that movie Cloud Atlas? Have you ever seen it?
That sounds really familiar.
It's a movie where these characters, especially like couples and stuff, they keep like reincarnating in different lives as different people and things like this. But Tom Hanks is in it, and he's, ends up finding this woman, Halle Berry, who's from another planet, and they kind of hook up and are trying to do the same thing. But Tom Hanks has this demon that just keeps coming around him and like telling him things in his head. So Halle Berry's actually there to try to help him. Like you've seen the preview where she'll reach her hand out. She says, "You'll fall, I'll catch you." Right. And he says the same thing to her, but the demon is in his head all the time. Like, she's here to betray you. When you turn your head, she's going to cut your throat. And he almost acts on his own thoughts. He pulls a knife out and he's asking her questions, trying to figure out what she's really doing. And the whole time she was there trying to help. They were trying to get the same purpose done, but that demon is the thing that is talking to that inner child the whole time. It's been there. Like, we all have that sumbitch, and he's there. It's like the guardian. But he's not really a guardian.
Right. I do believe when you look at the spiritual and the spirit and the spirits, I believe there's a reason why in most holy texts it talks about you need to discern spirits as well as men, because spirits infect people or spirits heal people. So there is the let's just say maybe it's a battle for the soul. Maybe the dark, sinister, those that finally just get down so far that they can't see up anymore, or they just decide that they hate life and they don't believe there's anything good left in the world, and they're so paralyzed and they're so wounded that they go out to do nothing but kill and wound, whether that's psychologically and they become the sociopath or a narcissist, and it's just like, somebody hurt me a long time ago and I'm going to make sure everybody in my path pays for it because nobody came to save me. I've dealt with that with clients.
I've been through one of those.
Yeah, and so if you get people talking long enough, most have. But what happens is those are teachers too, and it teaches us, hey, we need to, even though we've been hurt before and we don't like to reject people when we've been hurt, then we get the shadow aspect of, you better reject that. You better move away from that. You better realize that means, like you're talking about the demon in Tom Hanks' head in that movie. It's like, it means you nothing but harm. It wants to keep you in the old story.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing when we recalibrate our inner child. We are shifting from just being the hapless, vulnerable player in the scene to be able to go, I'm writing this now, and I'm not going to only attract relationships that trigger my neediness, or that it automatically, if I leave it to my automatic pilot, I'm going to do too much, too fast, too soon, and then I'm going to be the one that wants to hurry up and walk away before they get a chance to hurt me. I'll show you. So it's like, because when we're a little kid and we start to, and I'm going to show you how we tie it in with the planet degrees right now. When we're a little kid, there's a part of us, like when you go from being a little kid, like just trying to, fend off and make sense of anything and everything that's going on around you, because there's so much chaos magic going around you. Then we kind of get into our teens or our preteens, so we go, I tell you what, we're like watching a dynamic of our parents or somebody else's, our friend's parents or something, and we're sitting there at like between, I don't know, the age of 11 to 15 going, tell you what, when I grow up, that's not going to happen in my life. I will not do that to my kids. If I have kids, I will not do that. And we end up dynamically getting in relationships with the shadow of our parents.
Yeah.
It's like because the little kid was saying, why do they do that? What makes them do that? Why is that happening? They're hurt. They're like, the little kid is innocent, and it's like the little puppy going up going, I'll lick your hand. I'll lay by your side. I'll just hang out with you. And, it's just like, I'll sit with you. I'll hold space with you. Oh my God.
Let me tell you something, just so you guys know. I've had people, and I understand where they're coming from and why they did it, and their own pain and their inner child too, but it took a lot. And you got to understand that to forgive people. But I've had people cry on the phone, like, to me in my past, I want to take care of you, and tell me everything a mother would tell a kid, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you would think there was always this like intuition in my stomach going, something's not right here. Something's not right. And even the people that love you the most, that really love you, that really want the best for you, and they want that inner child to bloom, and they want your freedom. They want you to be happy. Those people will say, that person, something's not right about them. You know it? It's funny that they'll pick up on that vibe too.
Because they genuinely care about you. They genuinely have a divine love as that friend, a divine love as that, even, ex-partner, or business person. Like, they don't want to take advantage of you, and they don't want to see you've taken advantage of. It's not that they need to cast judgment on the perp. It's just like, I care about you. Whatever their thing is, that's their thing. But listen, this doesn't look like it's going to be good for you, so I'm only trying to tell you, I don't want to run your life. I don't want to, you got to do your own lessons. Amen. But I really feel like that this is going to be a downward spiral for you. And they're really saying, you don't deserve that. You're a good person. You deserve the kind of love that you know how to give. And that's another part of it. When we can incorporate our shadow, then we're beginning to then seek that partner with the qualities that we know are the good aspects of ourselves that we want to see in a relationship and that we're willing to give.
Friends
so in your
included.
meditations.
Friends too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes along that's alluring or attractive, part of our work on our shadow is not to kick those comrades, those true tribal people in our life. We don't want to make less time for them, or we don't want to listen to them less. Yes, we all have a right to our intimate time and our off time, but we want to make sure, hey, those people have been really solid anchors in my life, and it's not that I have to blah, blah, blah all my personal life to him or her, but they're really solid in my life. Those are really solid people that have proved their loyalty, that have proved their intentions in my life. So they're going to have a higher ranking in my loyalty and in my personal time, because those, not that they need that from me, but they're going to have my honor and my respect because those are the people that I could rely on. Those are the people that I didn't know in the beginning. Every new relationship has its vulnerability, but those are the people that actually proved the genuineness of where they're coming from. Even if or when we agree to disagree, they still got my back. They're still really authentic in my life, and they're not just, kissing my butt. They're not just trying to, be a false face to me in my life to get their way or to get in my good graces. Those are out there too.
But how do you see? And some of those people even will give you bad advice, but at least it's still good to hear it. Like they're trying to figure stuff out, and you'll figure it out too. But I think it's crazy that we don't listen to like our inner child in a way. Like, for instance, I've said this on the show a few times, and I'm not saying that I know more or anything like that, but I've been through a lot of crap, man. And I know a lot of you have too, but I realized that I have to protect my inner child, and other people need to as well. And so you have to like pay it forward. In other words, if you're the protector of your inner child, then you should be the person that says, hey, what you're doing right now really hurts me. And if you don't stop doing that, then I don't know if I can be around you, because you're not really telling them that you have this child that you're taking care of, but that's what you're doing. And you also have to recognize if there's somebody that you care about, when they say something like that, however they say it, that if you really do care and love them, then you'll do something about it.
Make the shift. That's right.
You'll do something about it.
That's right. That's right. You'll listen. When you care about somebody, you care about their dreams and their needs, not just what you want to extract from that relationship or that situation, because love truly is about uplifting that friend, being fair with that business partner, not being, caught up in the shadow of too greedy or too needy. It's like, I'm going to get mine first. The heck with that. I've been taken advantage of before. I'm not, and it's just like, wow, your inner child is like, no, we can both play in the sandbox. We can both go to the beach together. It's okay. Right. Because we get those gut level feelings, and I think that's the solar plexus chakra. When you get to the root chakra, it's red. When you get to the orange chakra, that has a lot to do with the inner child, and it all is synchronistic. Right now in the medicine wheel, with the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, we enter the direction of the south, and that's the time. It's called the growing season, and it's the time of the inner child, and it's the time of the innocent little rabbit, and it can also be the predator of the coyote on the medicine wheel. So, and then we talk about the planets right now when we've got all these retrogrades, and start looking at the points of where one of these significators in the star weather turns retrograde. For example, the word cereal comes from the goddess of the grain, Ceres. And when you look at Greek mythology, like I love studying Roman and Greek mythology and the legends of the constellations, it's just so much insight when you look at the stars, as well as not just getting caught up in the technicalities of astrology. So Demeter, or Ceres, had the daughter Persephone. And so Demeter, or like the Mother Earth, she had to do with all the things that grew in the growing season on Earth. Well, Hades, Pluto, the lord of the underworld, just snatches and abducts Demeter, Ceres, two different goddess names for the same thing, daughter Persephone, and takes her down into the underworld. I lust after her, I'm taking her, I'm snatching her. Well, so the growing goddess, Ceres Demeter, says is just so sad. Like her daughter there was a thief that came and took her beloved child, mother-child separation and abandonment and abduction, like literal abduction, like took her and sex trafficked her for him. It's like mine, and so she ravages the earth and stops things growing. And so then components come together to strike a deal with him. Let me have her for 6 months of the year. Let her come home for 6 months of the year. And so Persephone then comes up for part of the year. And so right now Ceres is going retrograde to join Neptune retrograde. And Ceres is going to go retrograde at this energetic signature. And you want to go to like when you were, like our last full moon, which was patriarchal, the lunar eclipse, the partial lunar eclipse in Capricorn was at 13 degrees. Ceres is retrograding at 13 degrees of Pisces. So right now with your inner child, when after you hear this show or the archive, work with what was the big event when you were from 13 years old to 13 and a half years old that had to do with what was growing in your life, where you felt nurtured, where you felt stunted or something stopped all of a sudden, like you didn't make the football team, you got kicked off the cheerleading
That's
thing.
the year my mother died, exactly, when I was 13 and a half.
Okay. Retrogrades let us walk back. Retrogrades let us go back in time and go, aha, and have these epiphany, these transformative moments. Okay, let's move to Mercury. Mercury, the mind, and how we think and how we form judgments or beliefs. And if we start paying homage to certain beliefs, then they become habits, and they become habit patterns. And since they're embedded, they go on automatic pilot, like the first time we learn how to use a fork. Maybe we struggle with it for a few times and we get yelled at by our parents to have good table manners, or some parents don't care. But once we master the fork, once we learn how to drive, once we learn how to tie our shoes or put our shoes on correctly, or the pants and the shirt not on backwards, then it becomes automatic pilot, doesn't it? Because we've done it enough times that we've moved forward with that one. That one's not a challenge anymore. We figured it out, or we learn our numbers, or these all become habits, and they become beliefs, and they become belief systems. So Mercury is going direct. It's been retrograde. It's going to go direct 5 degrees of the sign of the mother, the goddess, the nurturer, or the heretic. It's going to go direct at 5 degrees. Go back to when you were 5.5 years old. And what was a big deal in your family dynamic then, as you're processing through this, when you go from a full moon toward a new moon, we'll have the new moon, the second new moon in the sign of the mother, Cancer, the ocean crab. Our next new moon, when I'm back on July 20th, is going to be at critical degree. It's going to be an Antarctic degree, 29 degrees, 28, 29 degrees of Cancer, the crab. The solstice one was at the 0 point. So we've got 2 mother and child reunion new moons going, pay attention to me. And when we're going from a full moon to a new moon, that energetic signature is about releasing, reframing, letting it go. And again, I'm going to say, what now? Why not? Mars is in Aries. So Mercury at Cancer is 5.5 degrees as we do this show. Mars in Aries, which is like, oh my God, are you going to carry that forward into another month, another night, another dream, another relationship?
Nope.
Mars in Aries is like, let me help you.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get moving. Let's get rid of this thing.
Yeah, don't carry this forward. And, it's okay. Let's do something bold about it. Mars is like the fuel that goes into your engine. Mars is like, okay, it's a shadow. Let's deal with it. Let's slay the dragon, so to speak, psychologically. So with Mercury in the sign of Cancer and Ceres and Neptune, never forget that one of the shadow aspects or the hurtful aspects of the energetic signature of the sign Pisces in our chart is sacrifice or the orphan. So Ceres turning retrograde at that 13-degree point, right where our lunar eclipse was in the sign of the father, Capricorn, and Capricorn and Pisces get along, earth, water. Okay, so it's 13 degrees, and it's saying Mars in Aries is going, where do you feel abandoned? Where do you feel like an orphan? Where does that still sting? Where's that wasp sting, that hornet sting from your past? I'm Mars in Aries. Like, I haven't been in Aries for 2 years, and guess what, folks? I normally stay about 6 weeks in a sign because of retrograde and the anomalies of 2020. I'm going to be in Aries. I'm going to retrograde in September, and I'm going to be in Aries. My home harbor, I'm going to be there till January of 2021. So in the beginning degrees of Aries, Mars is good. This is like the time to do the work. This is not the time.
Yeah, for sure.
This is not the time to procrastinate. We are ending an 18.5 to 19-year cycle of the Cancer-Capricorn axis. It started in 2018. It's been raw. It's been personal. It's been gripping. It's been liberating, but not without pain. Not without pain. Because the eclipses were bouncing around in father, mother, mother and child reunion, Harry Chapin's song, the cat's in the cradle and the silver moon, little boy blue,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about like we're like saying to ourselves, I don't want to look at my childhood. I don't want to look at my mom and my dad and that stuff. But the eclipses took 19 years to get here again, and the last time it said for us to look at that was 2002. So now it's telling us, hey, guess what? Graduation is coming on July 20th. It's going to be the new moon in 29 degrees of Cancer, the mother, and guess what? You're done. That's it. Whatever the ghosts were that are coming up, whatever the phantoms of the past, whatever still kind of gets your goat, and I mean that pun literally because the last full moon was in Capricorn, it's time for you to say, enough is enough. And I'm not going to keep blaming mom or dad who didn't and who. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be the archetype of looking at my shadows and knowing that it's not in anybody else's hands, it's in my hands and it's in my willpower, and I'm going to start with my soul, and I'm going to call back all the beautiful components of my soul star, and I'm going to get in harmony, and I'm going to do a hemi-sync with my male self and my female self, my yin and my yang, and I'm going to love my anima and my animus in psychology, and I'm going to say, Mary, if I were going to be involved in a perfect relationship with the male, because I like men, I'm okay with that. I don't think that that's gone in society. What would be the top 3 priority qualities that I would appreciate in my mate, in my male mate? And so I make that list. He's got to be kind. He's got to be generous with his spirit. He's got to be authentic. Notice how I didn't put money up there. Okay, because I'm okay working as a team with that. So what I'm saying is we've really got to know that if we're both real, then that's going to be the compatible point for us. He can let his hair down with me. I can let my hair down with him. We can agree to disagree, and I feel safe, and I'm not vulnerable, and I'm not judged, and I'm not going to judge him, but I'm going to communicate with him and go, I'm not good with that.
Yeah,
it's okay if you're good with that. I'm not good with that. So we got to, we can't just keep looking at what we don't want in an intimacy. It's time for us to start, as script writers, to start a new storybook, our new fairy tale, our new manifestation manual, and say, this is what I now, by my divine alchemical gifts, this is what I'm now going to, in some of my meditations, I'll be releasing the old haunts. I'm going to do that before July 20th. I'm going to work on that with Mars and Aries. I'm going to work on that. But in my other meditations, I'm going to go into that past life regression, or I'm going to go into that meditation casting forth my intention with my knowingness that I and the divine are in sync and one with bringing in the highest good for me, the highest good prosperity, the highest good friendships, the highest good, intimacy in my marriage and my alignments of my friends and my social tribe. I'm going to bring that. I'm now seeding my own garden. I don't have to have abductions, and I don't have to have people snatch things from me or be envious of me or covetous of me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fashion my own canopy of grace. I'm going to write that letter to release my mother. I'm going to write that letter to release the snares of what I felt like my father didn't give me.
Vulnerability is power. Don't ever think it's weakness.
Oh, God, yes, it is.
It's the most powerful thing on the planet.
Period. And at the same time, thank those ancestors and elders, your seed of origin, thank all those components that we may have never met, but, the older that you are in this lifetime, it's all of a sudden, and these eclipses and Cancer and Capricorn and Sagittarius, and the new moon coming up in Cancer, let me tell you something. Before we get to July 20th, we're probably going to hear stuff and see stuff that we never knew. We never heard it that way before. We heard one version from our mom's side of the family, and we heard another version, or there were secrets withheld, and all of a sudden you have that day where you go, wow, I heard that about my mom, and I never knew that about my mom. I heard that from my dad, and it was different. It wasn't just my dad's version. People tend to put their own filters on things, and people tend to kind of want to minimize or maximize according to what will help them not have their pain anymore and get them out of their post-traumatic stress. But that's what we got to get away from, being comfortably numb. We've got to become more alive as sentient beings with magnificent powers once we align with the divine. It's just like, hey, divine, I'm ready. Oh, I got my hand up. I'm in the classroom. I'm in the classroom of supernatural, paranormal grace. Yep, I'm ready. I'm ready. No, I don't want to just move forward with another relationship or another job or another scenario in my life that it takes a bad medical report or a financial crisis or yet somebody else me having to reject something or somebody else rejecting me before I go, well, that sucks. I want to get myself off that treadmill of familiarity. There's a key word. If it's familiar and you keep going down the same road, then it's time for you to reinvent that. It's like when your car finally breaks and whether you go out and get a used car or a new car, it's not that you didn't love that car. It's just like, I'm done with you.
I can tell you the difference too. When you finally, and I'll tell you guys how to recognize this stuff. I don't know if you believe in like twin flame stuff. So whatever you believe, when a person comes into your life and they actually cater to your inner child, and you can't help but cater to theirs, and you help each other grow. Also, another thing that will happen is, and this is talked about all over the web, is certain people in your life will start to feel like home. Well, what if you never knew what home felt like? But now all of a sudden you do. It's weird, right? And then you can see, and this is kind of what happens to me too, is like before some of us are going through these transitions together. I don't want people to get polar, people are like, well, it's an astrological transition. I need to ditch everybody in my life. It's not like that. No. Like, who are the people that are growing with you that want your best? They want the best for you. They want the best for you.
And let's take ownership. How are we uplifting and empowering the people that matter to us?
Exactly.
Are we doing some random acts of kindness? Are we not allowing ourselves to get so busy with what fluffs us up that we don't remember these are retrogrades? We need to make that phone call. We need to make that text. We need to do that email. Hey, I want to check on you. Hey, what's going on with you? Because inside your head, they matter. They matter. So if you don't like rejection, make sure that you touch base with the people that are magic in your life. It doesn't have to be, out of a sense of just an obligation, but it's just like if you don't like those memories of when you didn't matter to certain people in your family dynamic, clean up that shadow yourself by saying, I will walk through this world and I will rekindle and I'll recalibrate and I'll let people know, because you don't have any idea that they may not be feeling rejected or lonely, not just because of you, but just in general, and you're the light in the darkness of their day.
Yeah, right. And see, here's another thing, as Teal Swan talks about this too, is like, yeah, you should take care of yourself. You should be the yin and yang in your own life, but we're all growing, right? So
that's right.
If you're trying to wait until you become perfect to be good enough for somebody, you got the wrong idea. Trust me.
That's right.
You got the wrong idea. But the right person is going to help you grow. They're going to care about you in ways that ain't so pleasant sometimes, to be honest with you. That's real love. But to me, that's real love. A little bit of, hey, maybe, take care of this thing. You need to take care of yourself, or you need to do this. Not like a judgment type thing, but more like, some people don't even do that. Some people, really smart people that I've noticed, they'll just step back and let you work it out and then come back in, you see.
And to say, how was that for you? Yeah, absolutely.
You did that for me a couple times, actually. That's when I really knew you cared about me. Because you just stepped away. And you were like, dude, I can't convince you of this, so you're going to have to deal with this on your own.
Sometimes,
right? And everybody thinks you and I get along all the time. We've never argued. Y'all don't know. It's bullshit. We get along, but there's been times when we've had to tell each other off because we care about what's going on,
Well, and we communicate before it gets to the point of no return type of a thing.
Right.
And with Chiron getting ready to turn the wounded healer, one of the centaurs, when it's going to turn retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries, remember Chiron is a key. So here comes another celestial agent in our retrograde patterns that this is about ego healing. This is just the gifts of these people, amateur astrologer, oh God, retrograde. Oh my God, just Mercury retrograde. Now we got 5 or 6 retrogrades rolling all the way until December. So it's ego healing. And if we'll here's kind of like one of the ways that you can make it simple for yourself. If we just stop just fighting to be right and become the light seeker to get it right, instead of being a right fighter, that's our ego, then we can summon up Mars in Aries. Chiron, the key, unlocks along with Mars in the early degrees of Aries, because Aries is fresh and bold and adventurous, and I'm like, why not? Why not? So if we can summon up some new strategies for the win, Aries likes to win. Aries is positive strategies and positive fire. But it's like, here, listen, you've been cold for too long, and listen, let's go sit by the fire. Let's just
hang
go sit
out
by the fire.
Yeah, let's have fun. Let's be a kid.
Absolutely.
Let's, there's this card that I'll drop in the chat room, but it's the Sun card. I've only showed it to one person in my life.
Number 19.
I feel like I'll show this one specifically to everybody else. I will drop the link in the Fringe FM chat room. But this is the original Golden Dawn Sun card. So you had one from the Rider-Waite where it shows just the one child, right? And they specifically held secrets away in the tarot deck. But this one, it shows the male and the female boy. And it has the water and the grass are shaped in a yin and yang. There's 10 sunflowers representing the Sephiroth. There's 7 yods on each side representing the 7 channels in the male and the female, and 10 rays and 12 rays of the sun. Happy children, right? So you can look at this as the male and female inside you, and the male and female in the right relationships in your life.
Let me add a Rider-Waite card that you can incorporate with your Golden Dawn. When you get to the 6 of Cups, there's an adult man and a woman, and there's the 10 of Cups. There's an adult, I think it's the 10 of Cups. Forgive me. The 6 of Cups is gifts from the past. That's why I did that with retrogrades. The 10 of Cups, there's an adult man and woman, and they're looking at the 10 Cups, and there's like Joe's saying, a male and a female child. And they're kind of doing ring around the rosy. They've got their their hands and they're spinning around. They're doing a spin dance type of a thing. So it's right there is the adult male and his inner child boy. Artistically, it looks like it's their children. They have a boy and a girl, and it's a man and a woman. But if you look at it energetically, like Joe's talking about with the Golden Dawn Sun card, the adult man and the woman have their back to the child. They're looking at the pretty rainbow, and the boy and the girl yippee. So it's let's invite happiness and let's invite joy, and that's Mars and Aries too. And Chiron saying, I'm the key. And you talked about the 10. You talked about the 7 yods, and you talked about the 10, and what's happening, even in the Rider-Waite card, number 19, adds back to a 1. So this is a time of dynamic beginnings. Aries is the first sign. So our sign and wonder for those who have eyes that will see and ears that will hear is that this is absolutely the richest time in 19 years. All these things we're talking about, this is the richest time in 19 years, including eclipses and retrogrades and signs and wonders of the time, for us to get ourselves absolutely out of a prison of pain, out of the phantoms of our past. And if you want to go back into the 80s on the public broadcasting system, I'm sure it's free all over YouTube now. John Bradshaw was iconic. He did a whole series, one of those free series that say, hey, donate to public broadcasting. He did a whole series on championing the inner child, and I like to give credit where credit's due and not make it look like it's my idea. John Bradshaw's workshop greatly helped me get some new seeds of intrigue about healing my own inner child stuff. So you can look on that on YouTube, just John Bradshaw. I think he's since transitioned and passed, but championing the inner child, and he gives you ways to make your little boy a magician, and give him like if his name is John, he made little Johnny, his inner child, he made him a magician, and he named his magician Johnny. But it was his adult self made his child self a magician, and they hung out. And they were able to relate and talk to each other that way. And that whole story would be, and he had this mobile floating around about how to give you a visual with your inner child. So the key is to become the hero, that your inner child and whatever you went through never walks a step forward, not another breath, not another step, not another hope or dream or tear. There's no more aloneness with it anymore. When you realize, like Joe's saying and we're saying, you are now the white knight, the princess, the queen, the king of your inner child. You're that. for your little self. You're that. And you can do a couple of exercises. You can do some letter writing. I like the hand and the pen rather than just electronic, Joe, because when you actually write a letter and bury it or burn it and do like your own ceremonial release of it, that brings from your subconscious. Your conscious mind gets busy writing, right? So you're pulling it from subconscious or mystical memory banks, if you will, and you're actually writing it down, and then your other physical self, your conscious mind, is then going to either bury it in the dirt, and or you're going to burn it, a little burning ceremony, and then put water on it and work with the elements. But you actually see it go up into sacred smoke, or you see it buried into the womb, the earth of our mother, because she's our earth mother. So when you're writing a letter to the mother, it's also our earth mother. It's Mother Earth, Grandmother Moon, Father Sky, Grandfather Sun. So you're incorporating your elders and your lineage and the elements all at the same time, whether you're working with color or tarot or numbers or sound healing. Think about your favorite song that uplifted you when you were a child, your favorite movie. What was the movie that you were drawn to as a child? And in your meditation, you can do a 3 to 5 minute visual thought world meditation to where you just pause, diaphragmically breathe, and go back to a favorite place, maybe with a favorite animal or a favorite childhood scene. Don't just go back in and plunder the pain. Go back with your inner child into some of the great stuff that you had in the midst of what might have been tough times when you had a childhood, but you also had moments of serenity and, gazing at the moon or at a campfire or swimming in the lake or going fishing. You had those moments too. So that's balancing out your yin yang as well. You want to also bloom those moments, like really go back in memory lane, go down into Nostalgiaville when you're championing your inner child and say, you know what, I want to walk back with you and I want to relive that memory. That was a good time. That was a sweet spot. You want that too. That's medicine too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's another thing too is a lot of this has been perpetuated since the beginning. I got a featured story I'm going to upload to the patrons, but by Brandy Williams that I read. But a lot of this goes back to the sacred mother that was forgotten, right? So you have to think about the divine feminine is trying to wake back up, but not in the way of people rallying in the streets, but in a spiritual way that it was forgotten a long time ago when Western society started taking over the world and pushed all these patriarchal things. The balance has to come back. You cannot get through this without taking care of the child. That's what the mother's all about, You're going to have to do it.
Yeah, within us. And so I think and here's another thing, if you can just, like people say, okay, but what can I do in my daily world when I don't have time to do something really deep? Try to start to be cognizant and recognize what is the voice of authority. When you're doing self-talk, what is that voice of authority in your head? Who is it? Does it sound like the mother figure? Does it sound like the father figure? Like when you start to feel like that you're doing self-criticism, what's that voice? What's that voice in your head? And then also ask yourself, just in the course of cleaning your house or doing the multitasking that you're doing, ask yourself this: where does my safety come from? Where does my safety? What is my safety, and where does my safety come from? And so you're starting to shift just dynamically thinking out of habit. Sometimes I'll have clients, I'll say to them, when I'm looking at their Mars and the aspect of their Mars, I'll say, what do you feel, Saturn, what do you feel is holding you back? Are you serious, the positive side of Saturn, are you serious about putting forth the discipline, the effort, the work, the time, Saturn, Chronos, the time into actually saying, for this next month, I'm going to do some definite work on my inner child. Don't have to do it all year. Don't have to do it for the rest of 2020. But at the snap of my fingers, if I just do some dedicated, disciplined effort into it to give a current look, a fresh look, some fresh eyes on my old stuff, my buried stuff, my reference points, then I can actually upgrade my hard drive, and I can delete some programming that doesn't serve my higher good anymore. So when you ask a question to get an answer, how does my rage act out? What triggers me? Are you a road rage person? I mean, some people are. What triggers my road rage? What triggers my self-destructive aggression? What shuts me down? Where do I run to be comfortably numb? Do I drink? Am I sullen? Am I moody? Do I blame other people all the time? I'm a bully if I do. Do I turn it inward? Do I project it onto other people? Damn it, I'm mad at you because you don't make me feel good. You need to make me feel good if you love me.
That'll empower you too, though, because when you realize that and people attack you, even if when you get attacked by somebody that you really love,
right,
you don't get so hurt from it anymore, too.
That's right.
Because you see where their pain's coming from.
It's a process. It's a portal. And right now, with Aries ruling the face and the head, our pineal gland, that third eye area, you can also heal. Let's say you want to take an easy way out. You can heal by just dealing with the solfeggio tones, the higher megahertz. You can go to somebody like Blue Pearl, or you can start listening on different outlets, your iTunes or YouTube, with 528 megahertz. It actually restructures and repairs your DNA. So, go to soundsofwonder.com or go to Mind Valley or go into these type of things where Jonathan Goldman does a great I have the CD, but he also has it. You can now hear it on YouTube, which is just awesome. I went out and bought the CD, but it's called Holy Harmony, and he actually does sound vibrations to cleanse and clear any clogged chakras. I mean, that might take you 15 minutes while you're cooking your dinner, but you can still do that if you're a person that's better busy. But it's time to discover the fire, Mars, Aries, the fire that transforms. Our 3 eclipses in a row started with the lunar eclipse in fire, philosophical fire of Sagittarius, the centaur. And now we have Chiron, another centaur, which was the wounded healer, saying, hey, I'm retrograde, so I'm not just the wounded healer because I'm retrograde, so this is before I got wounded, and I got the key. I got the key. And Mars is coming along with me, and Mars is like, let's do this thing. Like Joe said, let's have some fun. I'm not telling you that doing your inner child work has to be all muckety-muck and sad and, again, opening up all the pain. Oh, heck no. You're in charge. You are now in control of how much discipline and how much wonder and how much creativity that you'll do with your own energy healing techniques. You might go into the Mayan oracle and you might say, okay, I'm going to reach back in time and I'm going to work with the runes, or I'm going to work with the Mayan oracle, or I'm going to study a little bit about, some herbs, like kava kava, or I'm going to, I'm going to take some St. John's wort. I'm going to study what herbs help get me out of just when I shut down and I become numb. What herbs can help me uplift myself. What essential. I remember, Joe, the first time, I was in my 20s, and I was just kind of walking into a health food store because a medical crisis led me to go that route. And I remember looking at, what's one of those little bottles over there? Yeah. And it was a whole sampler rack of essential oils. And I said to her, what is that? And she goes, oh, those are tester oils. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she goes, well, we have those coffee beans there because after you smell 3 things, your sniffer kind of goes neutral and they all smell the same. So you sniff the coffee beans. I'd never seen that or heard of that in my life. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. You smell the coffee beans, and then your sense of smell will come back to which oils you're drawn to and which ones you're repulsed by. Well, that's the day that I realized I really liked patchouli and frankincense together. I liked cedar. I was a woodsy girl. So I began to find out, I'm really drawn to the earth element. Even in my olfactory sense, Aries, the head, the sense of smell, the sense of taste. And right now in 2020, we're going through all this your mouth particulates, put a mask on. So it's like, I saw this one lady put something on Facebook, Marianne, that was like, instead of namaste, it was namaste, mask today. Right. So it's like, it's a part of our face. It's a part of us getting ahead and facing life. And it's like there's a mask on our face. It's like there's an invisible enemy. Hide your smile. Don't breathe on me. Don't get close to me. Get away. And it's like, good Lord. We need to kind of look at the obvious visual oracles. There's the masculine way to meditate is with your eyes closed, the yang, and it's been done for centuries, okay? But there's the feminine or the matriarchal way to meditate is eyes open. really looking at everything that's going on in your life out there as an oracle.
We got to roll out of here, Mary. So thank you so much. What I want to do, though, for the patrons is kind of finish this up, maybe 15 minutes to finish up your thoughts. And I might actually just put it out there anyways on the archive. But, yeah, as far as the live stuff goes, we got to get out of here. And I just want to say thank you, and I hope everybody got something from this. I hope everybody I just hope everybody can see what Mary's talking about.
Yeah, plant the seeds and just liberate yourself, because here's the thing. You do matter, and you are worth it. You are worth it.
Absolutely.
And the planets are aligning to help you do it now. Like the stars and your astrology is all retrogrades can be very favorable from unlocking ourselves from what holds us back that was in our past.
Yeah, and don't be, take some time out each day to play a little bit. Be happy. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, but yeah, everything is a balance too. We'll do another one of these specials. We'll figure it out what it is, but I want you guys
where we can take their calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that now that we've done the groundwork, now we can let them call in anonymous, use fake names, and maybe get some help with their stories where they got fractured. And Joe and I can work with you to actually, because your story will uplift a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Don't be afraid to play a little, have fun. Things aren't going to be bad. Everything's going to get better. You just got to start taking care of yourself and that little one inside you and the other people. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Stay tuned for The Secret Teachings with Brian Gable.